Hey everybody, earlier this week and after the firing of Raiders defensive coordinator Paul Guenther, I called for the Raiders to hire the great former Stanford defensive coordinator Willie Shaw, director of defense, and now former head coach at Vanderbilt, Derek Mason, who has an acknowledged expertise at forming defenses that stop the read option offense and variants of it. Some of you floated different names, and I promised that I would come up with a list of names. Now, the list of names of black defensive coordinator position candidates for the Las Vegas Raiders to consider, I was about to say Oakland Raiders, is skewed toward those who would actually be available. So keep that in mind when you mention a name that you think should be on the list but might have a job someplace else, which would imply that it's not the greatest move for them because, say, they're already a head coach. Okay? So with that, here goes. Number one, of course, is Derek Mason. I have my list right here. And then Marvin Lewis is number two. Marvin Lewis is defensive coordinator for Arizona State. And Marvin Lewis is roundly considered a person who's going to, at some point in the very near future, get back in the National Football League more possibly than anything else as a head coach. But you would be a fool not to at least interview Marvin Lewis, if not give him the job if Derek Mason doesn't want it. You would say, why Lewis number two and Mason number one, considering Lewis' long head coaching tenure and success? It's because Derek Mason has a specialty in stopping the kind of offense that has plagued the Raiders of late, used most notably by Kansas City. And Marvin Lewis is just learning that, or has just learned, if you will, since he's been D coordinator this year, of how to scheme against those programs because he is in college at Arizona State. So in this instance, plus on top of all that, Marvin Lewis has a job, Derek Mason is unemployed. So there you go, all right? Then Teryl Austin and John Mitchell. Now, why do I put them together? Because they're both with the Steelers. Teryl Austin is a secondary coach on defense, although Teryl Austin has also been a head coach. And Teryl Austin's been not a head coach; he's been considered for head coaching roles. I apologize for that, but he had most recently also ran a coordinator role or held a coordinator role with the Detroit Lions. And then there's the legendary John Mitchell, who is defensive line coach and assistant head coach under Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. Then there's Romeo Crennel, who you have to consider, even though I think Romeo's going to be back with the Texans, but I put Romeo in the position of Marvin Lewis. He's a person who, the minute he becomes available, you've got to at least interview him. Period. End of story. And make him an offer. Give him an offer that causes him to want to come and build the defense in Las Vegas, right? And then there's Mike Caldwell. Mike Caldwell is the inside linebacker coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You want somebody who, in Mike Caldwell, has learned the Todd Bowles style of defense, which is top ranked, and Todd Bowles has consistently built highly ranked defenses. You want that person on your coaching staff building your defense. So if you can't get the other folks, if you can't get Derek Mason, make sure you've interviewed Mike Caldwell already. Derreck Ansley, a number of you have mentioned Derreck Ansley. He is in his first year as defensive coordinator with Tennessee. Definitely interview him, but I caution everybody who hears the name Derreck Ansley floated again and again and again. This is his first year as defensive coordinator with them, and he's got a young resume. And Derreck Ansley, having said that, I think Derek will emerge and do a fantastic job in the future, and I expect to see him at some point soon. back in back, or not back, or actually coaching in the National Football League. I mean, he was with the Alabama Crimson Tide as the defensive backs coach. Now he's D coordinator. And so, but I think you have to be careful to just throw out the name just because he's black and think, get that guy over somebody else. All right. Because he's got a position. He's defensive coordinator, which pays well at Tennessee. He's doing, by all accounts, everyone well. His background, and I'm spending more time on him because a number of you mentioned him. He started his coaching career at Alabama, spent a year as defensive backs coach at Tennessee, and then left for the same position at Kentucky. And then he was hired by Alabama to serve in the same role in 2016, and then he got the Chuck Bednarik Award while there, and the Thorpe Award. He coached, Chuck Bednarik Award winner and Thorpe Award winner Micah Fitzpatrick, who now is with the Steelers. And in 2018, he was hired by the Oakland Raiders to be the defensive backs coach, and he was the highest paid in the league at the time. That was 2018. And so a number of you are calling, and then he went to Tennessee as defensive coordinator. So a number of you are saying, hey, make him defensive coordinator with the Raiders. And he is on the list. Definitely must be interviewed. Definitely. Kris Richards, hiatus. And I want to take back something that I said about Ansley, saying that it was just in his first year there. I didn't mean that as a pejorative. I meant that he had just been cemented as defensive coordinator, and I couldn't see him jumping out of that position just after having gotten it, right? But give him the interview. One never knows. That's up to him. I don't know how he's going to want to be seen interviewing for a job when he just got this job. It's not exactly the greatest look, but hey, look, if you think that he's the greatest and he can do it, and the Raiders will indeed hire him, go for it. Just saying. Kris Richards is on hiatus. He is, and I think understandably upset that after having played an excellent role in the Cowboys defense and secondary coach, he's ready for a position more exemplary of his background, And so he wanted to wait out and see if something better came along. Interview him. Steve Wilks, believe it or not, same situation. He is on hiatus. This is the man who was the Carolina Panthers head coach for just 1 year. Then they dumped him for Cliff Kingsbury, who was right, and didn't give him a chance to perform better. He was expected to be the defensive coordinator for the Washington football team, but for some reason that didn't happen. So now he's out right now. Chris Hewitt, passing game coordinator, passing game, defensive passing game coach, secondary coach. Winston Moss he's not so much out. He was head coach with the XFL. Now he's looking for another assignment. A number of you have touted him, and he was treated inappropriately, being fired for, of all things, a tweet talking about Aaron Rodgers. So what, And then there's Ryan Walters, who is Missouri defensive coordinator. This is his first year. He has a younger resume than a number of the other people that I listed. But again, I skewed this list toward those folks that I knew would be readily available to talk to. But the other message I want to send is, overall, there are a number of talented African-American coaches out there. Some like John Woods of the Browns, he's the defensive coordinator. Others on organizations like the Buccaneers, which have a wealth of African-American coaching talent behind both Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles, and then the Steelers, okay? So all you have to do is look. A lot of the media doesn't look. They'll repeat something they saw from some other white-owned organization, and that's it. That's it. So that's why a lot of great African-American coaching talents don't get recognized, because their names are not floated in the media, so they're heard again and again and again. I'm changing that. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.